And welcome back, everyone, to another Market Conversations. I'm Jerry. I'm down here in Costa Rica, and actually really excited about the show tonight. There has been, in the back of my mind, a desire to get into some business that is related to this digital asset space, right? Is there some way to monetize it? There are many people that have shared that exact thought. Some of them create YouTube channels, garner huge followings, and derive very nice little income streams from their social media platforms, whether it be the combination of their Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube channel type of stuff. And good for them. I thought I'd give that a shot. Hasn't worked out that well for me. I haven't garnered the 200,000 subscriber type thing that the childish little guy inside of me was like, oh, wouldn't that be great to do that? That hasn't happened, but I will tell you, I've explored a lot of other ideas. You know, there was, I thought it'd be great to put together a social media type entity and farm it out to exchanges and other crypto businesses, specifically tailored for Latin America. I called it Crypto Espanol. It was Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, YouTube, etc. And get some local presenters, right? Folks that would be on camera, just like myself. And I found that to be really difficult. I really did. It's been very difficult finding somebody in that realm who wants to learn and understand this asset class and then convey the information on camera. So that hasn't really gone anywhere. Then I started looking at, and this is, did a little of my preliminary research and thought about a Bitcoin ATM business, right? What are the things that I thought with the Bitcoin ATM business is because so much of Latin America, these Spanish-speaking countries, have a very large population that is unbanked, right? They're basically dealing in cash economies. Well, the Bitcoin ATMs are exactly that. They're a cash business. And so that excited me, and I did some research, and I put it on the shelf for a while. Then I got the idea again after chatting with one of my buddies that I met here through the channel, actually, Expat Matt, and I started reaching out to various Bitcoin ATM companies saying, hey, I've got an interest in what you do, but only doing it in Latin America. And so one of these businesses that I found called the Coin Brothers Bitcoin ATM, I went to their website and I filled in one of the little, send us a message portions. It gives your email address and you put in some info and you put your little message. And 15 minutes later, the CEO of the company called me. We had an incredible hour-long conversation, and he agreed to come on camera with me tonight and talk about the Bitcoin ATM business as he knows it. And I really thought it would be a great stepping stone to talk about this market, right? This market in this asset class. For those of you that have been around for a minute or two, you've been through a few cycles of some extremely exorbitant highs and then some very aggressive pullbacks. And one of the things that has become very, very clear to me as I start to frame and understand exactly what I'm into is I'm into a asset class of networks, and trying to really understand networks has been my goal for quite some time now. Many of you have heard me talk about this probably to nauseum, right? But as I look at previous networks that have gone on to garner worldwide adoption, like cellular networks and of course the internet, but also businesses like Google, businesses like Amazon. These are network businesses. And if you look at their histories and their, just their ups and downs, I mean, even Amazon, arguably the largest digital retail network on the planet and one of the most highly valued companies on the planet, has suffered drawdowns of 85% 5 different times in their maturation process. I don't think digital assets are going to be any different to that. It's going to take time before, quote unquote, we hit the moon. And a lot of us are really excited and exuberant about being in this space. There are other ways to monetize that excitement other than waiting for your holdings to appreciate to the levels that you want them to. There are many business opportunities in this new emerging asset class. This innovation of digital value, lightning fast settlement, and breaking down the borders that are created through currency using these digital assets, I think is going to transform so many things, and there'll be so many opportunities available. I thought it would be a great topic for a show. So before I bring Corey from the, from the Coin Brothers Bitcoin ATM, I want to say hello to Brad, Scorpion, DC, Precise, Elipool, P. Kelly, Jungle Inc., Belinda, Gary, and all of the others of you that I can see on my counter aren't chiming in the chat. So if you're just watching, thanks for tuning in. If you like the content, hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel and want to get my view on things on a regular weekly basis, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified. But you can almost set your clock to this show. We do this show every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Pacific time. 6 p.m. Pacific time. And only you've missed one show in a year and a half. So without any further ado, let me bring in my guest tonight. This is Corey. Corey, you're the CEO of the Coin Brothers Bitcoin ATM company, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you for having me.
Yay, thanks for taking your time. Now, coincidentally, Corey and I are both broadcasting from beautiful Costa Rica. He's here on vacation, and I'm here because I'm here. So what's shaking? How are you enjoying your trip, and what would you like to jump into as the first topic to talk about?
First of all, I thoroughly enjoy Costa Rica. It's just amazing. First came out here a couple of years ago and just never wanted to leave. And, I YouTube. I'm in a little place, a little beach city called Tamarindo. You're familiar, of course. A lot of people aren't.
Of course.
But it's really, really awesome. It really is. And we're here until August, just kind of hanging out and enjoying life. And I needed it. I needed this trip, and I needed to come back to this beautiful country.
Right on. So just a little tip for all of you that are maybe have not been very far south. Costa Rica and a lot of the other Latin American countries enjoy their quote unquote summer while North America is in their winter. So for those of you that may want a winter escape, getting out of the blizzards and all the other goodies that come from winter time up in North America, consider a trip. Come on down. We'll go out and have a taco. So Corey, one of the things that I thought was really cool, number one, is how fast you responded to my message over your website. What prompted the CEO to pick up the phone where a customer service person could have done the same exact thing?
Well, everything kind of passes through my desk for the most part. And it's important to know who it is, no matter who comes your way. It's just really important to know them, and everybody's important, so it's not like I'll talk to anybody. I answer the phones to my own line, 50% of the time. I want to know my customer. I want to talk to them. I really, I'm very involved in that way. And most of the day, I'm just hanging out, answering emails anyway. And I've seen your show before. And I saw one that you did with Costa Rica Matt, who I love that guy. And I think I just did a little comment on there about something about, I love Costa Rica. I believe that's how you found me, just kind of scrolling through the comments. But so it's just important to always have that direct line of communication and not let anything kind of go cold. What you came out and asked was cool. And I was just happy to talk to you about it.
Well, for those of you watching at home, I inquired with Corey's company, the CoinBros, Bitcoin ATM, about starting a Bitcoin ATM business down here in Costa Rica with plans of expansion throughout all the Spanish-speaking territories, which is all the Caribbean islands, Central America, and South America. And I got a very candid response from Corey. And Corey, let's talk about your journey starting the Coin Brothers and just the, I don't want to say mountains of crud you had to crawl through, but that'll do. Let's talk about your journey starting this company and what it's taken for you. By the way, Coin Brothers is both in California on the West Coast and Florida on the East Coast, with expansion plans to other states in the nation, correct?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I don't want to come here and pretend like I'm someone I'm not. We're not these other huge entities with 2,000, 3,000 ATMs. Right now we have about 60, and we started in 2019, sort of officially. The reason why it's called the Coin Bros is a friend and I kind of had the idea, and it's funny that most partnerships, they just don't end up jiving after a while. They just kind of don't work out. And what happened was I had bought them out really early on. They just didn't want to do it. They didn't see the value in it, and it wasn't something that they wanted to continue doing. And I thought there was really something to it. And at that time, there were maybe 90 Bitcoin ATMs in California. So right now, to give a perception, now there's about 20,000 nationwide, a few thousand easy, probably about 5,000 in California alone. So we were super early. And that was in 2019. So what is it, 2021, 3 years later, it's absolutely exploded. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen an industry like this. We're technically a money service business and a financial institution, which is kind of a scary word. So there's a lot of regulatory hoops, and there's a lot of compliance, and there's a lot of red tape that you have to, like you said, just kind of plow through to actually make it. And most people do not make it as far as we have, but most people, they just, it's not a thing they want to continue doing. After 3-4 ATMs, they go, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It's really hard. And this is, to be fair, this is the first business I've ever done. Before this, I was a paramedic, and that was hard. But this is by far the hardest shit I've ever done in my life. And every day there's new challenges and new headaches, but it's pretty awesome. And sometimes it's scary. And it's a whole new chapter of life that I kind of started. And we have a lot of momentum going forward. At the end of the day, I work 24/7. Literally, just, and anybody who owns a business as yourself, you're just married to it. And I have an amazing wife. I'm married to her too, and she helps out a lot. But this business is really no joke, and it's It's crazy.
Well, let me ask you some questions. Obviously, I'm not in the business, although I'm deep in the crypto space. If you're a regulated money service provider, then I would assume your customers would you would only be able to provide services in a regulated way, meaning that your customers would need some kind of KYC process.
Yep.
Is that not true?
No, that is absolutely correct.
Can it be something as simple as a driver's license?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Okay.
that is KYC right there. And by the way, this is such a good question and a topic that people don't know about. And they think that KYC is some big scary thing. And I get it. I wish it was as simple as just buy it anonymously, go about your daily life. You know, the way I think Bitcoin should be intended. But I'm not going to go to jail to sell some guy $30 in Bitcoin so he can remain anonymous. And
yeah,
when you agree to be a money service business and a financial institution, you agree to play ball, and that's just the end of it. So all of these exchanges like Binance and whoever it is, Bitstamp and what's the guy Arthur Hayes who's in
I don't want to say Bitfinex. It's Bitrue. BitMEX. Yep.
Yeah. That's that scrutiny that they're under right now is a headache that was easily avoidable. And you could say that they were, heroes of the financial system, not doing KYC for so long. But I can guarantee you right now, they're probably regretting that decision, and it's a very expensive decision, and a lot of people go to jail when they don't play ball. It's just not worth it. So you just have to keep your nose clean. That's really all it is. And we don't use information against people. It's really benign, the whole KYC subject. It's not. We're not knocking down your door, asking you a million questions. Sometimes it's just as simple as a phone number, and that's enough for a certain limit. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then sometimes, if you want to buy more, then an ID. And if you don't want it, then good luck getting it. It's not easy for everyone to buy Bitcoin. Even the exchanges, they're actually coming up to be a little more intrusive than a lot of these Bitcoin ATMs are.
Sure.
At the end of the day, I know this sounds crazy, but the good guys really do have their customers' best interests in hand. We really do care about the safety of the customer. And there's a lot of scams that go on, anything where it's, gift cards or the Nigerian prince who emails you, or, gold. Anytime there's any sort of money involved, there's always going to be shitty people trying to take advantage of you. And I promise you that a little bit of KYC goes a long way with protecting a lot of these people. It's a drag. I get it. And I wish we didn't have to do it. It is what it is. It is what it is. And it's to give the best asset on the planet Earth. And it's, yeah.
So you brought up some stuff in the conversation with me when you called me on the phone, but I want to ask this question specifically from Channing. What are some of the challenges specifically? This way we can understand and appreciate your efforts. Thanks ahead.
Good question. So in the beginning, just getting locations was a nightmare, because you would come to somebody, a gas station, a liquor store, and you say, hey, look, I have this magic internet money machine I'd like to put in your store. And people would just say, get the hell out of my store, right? So that was a challenge in the beginning, because they didn't understand it. And then crypto, Bitcoin blew up. And now that challenge has been removed, and we have people calling us constantly that want new locations at their store. Sometimes the people who said no to us call and say, hey, look, 3 years ago we said no. Why don't you come down and put one in our store? And but that was the easy part. even though that was a challenge, hearing no's constantly, and you have to get used to the word no. Another challenge is banking. That is probably the biggest hurdle for most people where they fall short, unfortunately. So it's kind of a catch-22. There are only a handful of banks in the country that are set up to do cryptocurrency, okay? Maybe 3 or 4 banks.
Okay. Can you name them, or are they anonymous?
That's a good question. Even if I named them, you couldn't reach out to them.
No, that's okay. I would just like to know the names.
But I will tell you that the people that helped me get a bank account is Bankline, okay? So those guys are sort of a liaison between these banks. One of those banks is actually People First, and that's who I work with. They're an amazing bank in Chicago, I think. I don't want to get that wrong, but the staff is just amazing. Matt Bebo is the CEO. He'll talk to you on the phone for an hour and just kind of bullshit back and forth. He's just a solid guy. But these banks take on risk. Banks, they take everything they do as a risk-based approach. And when it comes to crypto, it's too high risk for the regulators to take it seriously. And they don't have the infrastructure in place for the compliance side to start taking these cash deposits into their bank. So it's almost a nightmare for them. And that's just.
And you're doing this on a daily basis, right? Your machines get emptied on a daily basis as far as the cash held inside of them. Pretty
much, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And that's a whole other infrastructure that's built with this. So the banking was a nightmare. And the catch-22 is they want you to do X amount before they'll even talk to you. And it's a pretty astronomical amount. You say, well, how the hell am I supposed to do this much when I don't have a bank account? I need the bank account so I can do that much. And they say, well, tough shit. Figure it out. So we got lucky. We got really lucky with Andy from Bankline. And those, if anybody is trying to do this and they're serious about it, I can't say that they're going to give you the key, but those are the kind of the gatekeepers to this industry. And again, but it's not enough to just know somebody. You have to have everything in check. You really, and it starts with compliance. It always starts with your first transaction. Were you doing the right thing? Do the transactions make sense? And the paper trail that you show them, can they sign off on it and say, yes, this is what's expected of you in this industry. You're going above and beyond. You're making a good example. And you are low risk for us to take you on as a client. And it's, again, the bar to entry is only getting higher. Again, when we started, it was lower. They wanted some clients, and they still did me a solid. And it was a big favor because I wasn't doing the volume. At that time, I only had maybe 13 or 15 ATMs when we were feverishly trying everything we could. We even had bank accounts, Chase, Wells Fargo, these regular guys where you'd say, yeah, we're a Bitcoin ATM company, we're this and that. And they'd either say, get the hell out of here right now, or they'd say, all right, that's fine. And 6 weeks later, they close your account down.
Right.
So, and that happens. It's sort of an epidemic. Pardon the phrase.
We've heard stories in the cryptoverse. For instance, David Schwartz, the CTO of Ripple, just an employee of a crypto company, got his bank account shut down because he was working for a crypto company. Anyway, I think George brought up a very interesting point. He says, isn't that the point, not to deal with the banking system? George, the entire point of a Bitcoin ATM is to give the consumer access to acquire the digital asset with cash. So it's the client is outside of the banking system. He's putting cash in a machine and buying Corey's Bitcoin, which is a really interesting dynamic. I did not know this until Corey enlightened me in the conversation. the Bitcoin ATM companies own the Bitcoin and are selling it, and then have to take money and buy more Bitcoin. It's like they're a store, right? Just like a shoe shop. You go into a shoe store, you buy a new pair of shoes. The shoe store needs to restock their inventory. I did not know that. I just assumed, Corey, you would plug right in to a Binance or to a whatever, but then it made sense. The money is going into an ATM machine, not into a digital bank account that is then funding the exchange to provide a buyer and a seller to provide the Bitcoin to the consumer. So then it made sense, but I never thought it all the way through. Belinda has a great question here for us. Is this identical to the traditional ATM? I used to own a Chevron gas station, and a thief drove up, stopped, and pulled the ATM off the island, took off down the freeway. Yikes.
Yep, that happens. It's happened to us. Yeah, look, whether or not they're bolted down into the ground or not, if someone's motivated enough, they'll take that ATM right out of there. And you do everything you can. It's a risky business. It is. And we actually got robbed right when kind of the COVID hit, and there was these riots last year. They were hitting everybody. They're sort of.
Thank goodness for insurance, right?
Absolutely. It still sucks, man.
Oh, sure.
They're brutal. They're brutal. It hurts, but I laugh at it sometimes. It's just so absurd what people will do to take from somebody else. It's something that it's a concept, stealing from people. I'll never be able to understand it. But
I think I understand it really well. I'll tell you, and this is kind of at the core thesis of why I do everything I do. I honestly believe that at the center of most of the strife in the world is the income inequality, right? People are not financially literate. People don't understand how to make money with money. We've been taught very well, right? We're all acclimated to trading our time for money, but very few of us learn how to generate money with money.
That's a great point.
And I honestly believe at the core, if the world became financially literate and understood these principles, that there would be far more prosperity, therefore less anxiety, less stress, less desperation. Because most crime are crimes of opportunity, right? That's if you look at all the statistics, most crimes are crimes of opportunity, not well thought out, coordinated, executed, endeavors. I mean, we've seen millions of movies where they are that way, but in real life, it's more not the case.
Fair enough. I can't argue there.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So maybe you could answer for the audience, just like you answered for me. What would be like? Let's say I see this amazing market in Latin America, right? A tremendously much larger proportion of the population in Latin America, that's the Caribbean islands, Central America, and South America, are not banked relative to the United States. And I made the case for you. I didn't think the US was a great market for Bitcoin ATMs because everybody could just get a Coinbase account, link their bank account, and bada bing, bada boom. And you enlightened me of the unbanked numbers in the US, which made sense when you said that to me. But what would be some of the challenges for somebody who wanted to take something like what you're doing, but bring it to Latin America where there is a much larger market?
Same thing. It's probably compliance and banking.
Compliance, banking, security.
Yeah, security, absolutely. And security is probably more of a challenge out in Central South America than it would be out here. I don't have the data, but from what I understand, Central America, petty theft is a little bit higher. I could be wrong, but again, security would be definitely high on the list of priorities. And I don't know anything about the banking system out here and their views on it. It might be easier to get a bank. I just don't know. It's definitely worth looking into.
I have an idea.
Yep.
The next time you're in Costa Rica, which is right now,
yeah,
I know they got banks in Tamarindo because it is a huge expat community up there in Guanacaste. Go have a beautiful lunch with your wife, and then go spend half an afternoon in one of their banks, and then one of their national banks, and then one of the international banks or private banks, and see what you come up with. Because if you get the bug like I got, you've got a man on the ground in Costa Rica right here. You've got a man in Guatemala right there, an expat Matt, who would be my partner in this endeavor. And we could just spread like the coronavirus all through Latin America.
I do have a banking experience in Costa Rica. We actually have a bank account out here.
Okay.
When we bought our place.
Of course.
We went through the process, and it was ball breaking. It was a lot of papers that we brought papers, and they said, you need these other papers now.
Yeah, because those papers are no good. Those papers no good, senor.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. We need the ones for last. Yeah, so it was not an easy task. I can only assume that the bureaucracy would be the same. Again, not impossible, but it's probably the same pathway, and it's worth inquiring. It is worth inquiring.
It is. And you're
maybe
here.
Somebody I know. Yeah, I know. Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying, you never know.
You gave me some homework. I will do this homework.
Good. Because my buddy expat Matt and I would love to work with somebody who wanted to do something like that. And having somebody who's already been, up to his eyeballs in this for the last 3 years is exactly the kind of partner you want. George brings up an interesting question. He said, would you say that Bitcoin fits in well with credit rating systems that's in South America? Example, Brazil. Hence why they're looking at Bitcoin as a national adoption. I think those are two totally different points. One point that Latin American countries are looking into Bitcoin as either a reserve asset or a currency in their country has everything to do with their own national currency and economies taking dumps against the US dollar. And the Latin countries that have adopted the dollar as a medium of exchange or pegged their currency to the dollar. And like El Salvador uses the US dollar, Panama pegged its peso to the dollar. So, as the dollar goes up and down, so does their peso, but there's no divergence. So looking at that, it's all an inflation play. It's the rate of monetary expansion of the US dollar that's forcing countries to look at Bitcoin, i.e. Argentina, i.e. Brazil. I mean, I don't know. Everybody hears about Argentina with their monstrous currency debasement in Venezuela. But you know what? Brazil is not doing well. They are losing a tremendous amount of ground in the currency world from their monetary policy. And I'll tell you this whole thing, guys, if you ever want the simplest way to kind of understand currencies in different countries, look at one statistic and one statistic only. And that is that country trading at a surplus or a deficit? What does that mean? Does it import more product than it exports to other countries. If you find a country that exports more of their products to the other parts of the world than they buy from the world, that country's currency is going to be fine. If it's the other way around, Bitcoin's a great bet for that country to take a look at potentially adopting as either a treasury asset or part of their monetary system as a form of a medium of exchange. So that was that. I'm looking to see if there were any more. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see here. I think I missed one. Maybe I didn't. Let me say hi real quick to the folks I missed before. Channing, great that you dropped in. Ellie Poole, Russell coming, caught me from Digital Asset News. Thank you very much. George, Steve, Belinda, of course that's expat Matt, and Crypto Reds, Daniel. Crypto Reds YouTube channel down here in Costa Rica. Daniel is extremely knowledgeable in Bitcoin, and is probably the most proficient bilingual person I've ever met in both English and Spanish. I mean, it's hard to tell which was his first language. Kelly Slade, welcome aboard. Daniel, we're talking about Bitcoin ATMs potentially coming to Latin America. Do you have any questions about that? I got a CEO right here from California and Florida's finest Bitcoin ATM company, the CoinBros Bitcoin ATM, and a personal favorite of my YouTube channel. Maybe I can talk you into sponsoring the show. It's going to cost you a Diet Pepsi and a taco. Just give me your logo and I'll put it at the bottom of the thing. Sponsored by.
Deal. That's a good deal.
That is a good deal. Yeah, all 25 people are going to see it. It'll be wonderful. So let's see. Let's transcend from just the Bitcoin ATM business and tell me what are some of the things that you're seeing or thinking about as it pertains to auxiliary businesses in the digital asset space as a whole, maybe in the United States. Because, I mean, you're in this neck deep all the time. You people have got to shoot ideas by you. You've got to come up with some of your own. What are some of the thoughts in the back of your head for auxiliary businesses to get involved in this digital asset space?
You know, what I see is COVID did a funny thing.
Oh.
Lots of funny things. But I really think people are going to be so much more nomadic now, and working remotely is going to be, it's not going anywhere. So when you look at the potential to live a certain lifestyle remotely in other countries, I think real estate and crypto are going to go hand in hand, and other countries. So international crypto real estate is what I see making, someone's going to corner it, and they're going to corner it hard, but it's going to have a ton of momentum behind it. Whether it's maybe little incubators everywhere, or I just can't articulate exactly what it is, but I can feel so many more people are interested in getting the hell out of where they are right now and seeing the world for what it really is. And there's so much potential out there to just get up and explore and make your own life. And no doubt, cryptocurrency is a part of that model, if you will.
Well, it breaks down so many of the currency barriers, right? If you could take let's just use Bitcoin or some other, relatively popular digital asset and have it bounce around. Maybe you're living in Costa Rica, but your business is located in California, and you're down here working and you're getting your payment in a digital asset. and you use your local or even your US bank to interact with your life needs, right? The money that you might need to buy that taco, gallon of milk at the store, whatever. As long as there's those kind of rails, and there are, right? I mean, most of us in the developed world have a very clear connection to access to the real everyday economy, right? Like, for instance, I use Charles Schwab, and they're just as good down here with all the ACH rails and Visa rails that they are in California. Exactly no different. So I can literally live my life off my debit card, right? Go to the ATM, pull out some cash, pay my landlord rent. Need to go to the store, storage, take my Visa card. I go to, whatever, takes my Visa card. Uber takes my Visa card. Airbnbs take my Visa card. There was a question that came up, and before we get too far, it comes from Gary's. He says, can Bitcoin ATMs support other cryptocurrencies into addition than Bitcoin? And then there was a follow question. What are the most popular, from Daniel at Crypto Reds? What are the most popular digital assets you're seeing on your platform, or what are people asking for?
They can pretty much support most of the top 50. We use General Bytes, and they are really good at implementing a whole list of Bitcoin, Litecoin, XRP, whatever it is. I mean, it's pretty limitless what you could do. And the popular ones are still the top 10. Absolutely. So Bitcoin's always number one. Litecoin is good. Ethereum. We have had a couple people ask about XRP. We don't support it yet.
I just lost half my audience. They just tuned. I saw the viewer count drop in half when you said that.
Well,
all right.
Well, for no other reason other than we just haven't implemented it yet. That's
right.
I would like to have it, and Link in all of them, all the good ones up there. Yeah, absolutely. So that is something that we are doing, and people ask all the time.
I think it's great. One of the things I found really interesting, and this is being sparked by a lot of what Charles Hoskinson and the Cardano Foundation, as well as the Cardano blockchain, are doing, and that is establishing digital identity. And it kind of dovetails right into Steve Willett's question here. He says, could your ATMs become voting booths? Consensus voting is the key for mass adoption in cryptocurrency. I believe voting Compress will give you that data. Oh, Compass? Voting Compass will give you that data? You lost me on voting Compass. I have no idea what that means. But
that's a crazy question. That is amazing if they could actually become voting machines. I don't know.
Use your digital identity that you establish, right?
Uh-huh.
And on voting day, there's a line on your ATM just to vote.
Wow.
That'd be crazy. But it'd be cool.
Just exploded with shit to say.
And somebody could patch all of you ATM guys together with some blockchain, right? Because that's basically you would just need the internet access, which you already have.
Yeah. Wow.
Ooh, this is a good one. How popular is it that of people asking for the Lightning Network support?
Not very popular. Yeah,
I would imagine really. That would be, though, because remittances are always a two-way street, right? You don't have a remittance unless you have somebody in one country trying to send value to somebody else in another country. So let's say I'm an immigrant worker from El Salvador, and I'm working in California as a construction person, and I get paid in my US dollars, and I get raped at the check cashing place, but I take the money that I got left after they take their 15% or whatever they take, those bastards, and I go to your Bitcoin ATM to acquire some Bitcoin so that I can send the private keys off the thing that I get to my dear old mom in El Salvador who needs the money to buy the chickens so they can lay the eggs so she can keep her business going. Is that kind of how it works now when in your experience with people using your machines for remittance purposes?
Yes, we don't technically fall under the umbrella of remittance, if you will. Typically, what we would ask of our clients is that they send it to their own wallet first for accountability, and then they can do whatever the hell they want with it from there. The issues start to happen because a lot of people don't understand how Bitcoin works. And they say, I sent it to my uncle. He said he didn't get it. Well, you and I know we could just look on the blockchain and say, oh, no, yes, he did. But a lot of people don't understand that they could just look on the blockchain. And so a lot of issues start to happen when they're sending to somebody else. And also the potential for those people getting scammed is actually really high. There's a lot of romance scams. People think they're sending to someone that they met on the internet, and that person is just milking them for money. So our term and condition is that you send it to your own wallet first. That way you have possession of that every single time, and then just do whatever you want with it. It's easier for everybody that way, and that's kind of what's required of us as well.
It would make a lot of sense, right? The majority of the world is not financially literate. And if you're not financially literate, how can you even begin to understand really what digital assets are, right? Especially Bitcoin or XRP or DOT or, I mean, if you don't understand money, right? If your whole concept of money is you have to give your time to get some, and when you get some, you're going to immediately give it back to somebody else for some other good or service, right? Your gas in your car, or the milk for the cereal, or rent for the roof over your head. It's just a thing that just you acquire and you give it back. It's not a real tool. And then add the tech complexity to it. I think we did ourselves a misservice in the very beginning with these very technical terms, right? A wallet is nothing more than an account. But people, when they think wallet, they're thinking the thing they put in their back pocket, which is technically accurate. It is a wallet is your thing, but the association to account doesn't always go there. You know what I mean? I think it would have done, but I think time, and because this is a grassroots movement, right? We don't have, I guess we're starting to get some help from the media, but for the most part, crypto education or financial literacy education is a grassroots thing. Dudes on YouTube, dudes on Instagram, ladies on Facebook, whatever. It's just men and women sharing with each other on these digital platforms. It's not taught in school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So real mass adoption takes a long time.
There was a really steep learning curve for people to get into crypto.
Yeah.
And it kept a lot of people out of crypto who otherwise would have been in. And one of those things were the terms wallet, Satoshis, blockchain, private keys. They were not threatening, but just sort of turned people off in that it was just so much at one time. A lot of people are like, why would I do this? My debit card works just fine. My dollar bill is just fine. A little bit of foresight in the beginning would have helped a lot.
Would have smoothed out some of the edges, but the truth of the matter is most adoption to any new innovation is always done by the fringe first. The fringe either being illicit or desperate.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I'll be the first one to tell you in 2017 or 18, the very beginning of 2018, when I actually put skin in the game, if I was already wealthy, I would not have bothered with it.
That's a good point.
Here I'm this guy, middle-aged, and I'm being kind to myself when I say that, middle-aged guy that didn't have a lot and was thinking, you know what, there's a very real possibility I'm going to live till I'm 80, 90 years old. I don't have the funds to cover my life. And do I want to say, would you like fries with that, or welcome to Walmart?
Yeah,
and barely scrape by. So anyway, exciting part of the show, I'm get to welcome back a contributor that used to come on every week and bring incredible questions and a really neat little energy. I'd like to welcome back to the show, Bitta Avenue. Bitta, say hello to Corey.
Hi.
Hello. Happy Friday, everybody.
Thank you.
So, Bitta, did you come with any incredible questions tonight?
Well, I was actually very curious about how the exchange rate works. Like if you guys are gonna do business outside of the U.S. And they're not pegged to the dollar, how does that exchange rate work? As far as if they're using their own, money, how does that work?
So on the ATMs, they're set up. The bill acceptor, you can actually, for instance, take pesos or all different kinds of different currencies. So those bill acceptors are set up to take and accept a whole gamut of different currencies. And the exchange rate is just the percentage of what it is pegged to that currency. Does that make sense?
No.
Yeah. Easy implementation. That's
right, because
you're
pricing everything, and all the cryptos are priced in US dollars, and then you convert to whatever that national currency is if the machine is in that place.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it would just run on the peso or the colone or whatever it is. Yeah.
Excellent.
So your company would actually have all that stuff set up before, so you would handle the exchange part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for somebody that would want to expand outside of the country, like Jerry, what is the process like? Like, what are the things that are requirements for somebody to, whether to partner with you or like have a franchise or like just extend it? Like, how does that process work? What are the requirements?
It's always going to start with compliance first. Are you in alignment with the current laws? Okay, that's where it has to start. So kind of finding out maybe compliance laws in that area, which is specifically anti-money laundering, and which is AML, and know your customer, which is KYC. Understanding those and building what they call a robust AML policy. And most compliance officers from a bank, they may not know too much as it pertains to cryptocurrency. So you might have to do some digging for someone who's sort of a AML KYC specialist and kind of hope they know what they're talking about in other countries. In the US, the framework is already kind of written, and it was a lot easier for these guys to do it. Every country is different, but I have a feeling they're all sort of the same. I really do. I don't think they're going to deviate too much. So, the policy might be able to switch over with a tweak or two here or there. It just kind of depends. So it is going to take some legwork and some research. Absolutely.
Okay. Because it would be very interesting to see how that process actually works out outside of the US, because majority of the services that are needed I feel like are more necessary outside of the US, especially like I'm from Africa, so I would want to go take that to where I am from, considering that some of the areas that they don't have a bank, majority of the areas don't have a bank. And right now we're actually going through a civil war and a genocide. So like some of the places have on purpose shut down the bank. So it's like, how do you get them money to buy food, and how do you get them stuff to, Bitcoin would, or any cryptocurrency would be perfect where you can just, exchange with it. But how, if it's not set up there originally with a bank, like how do you get to them? But you keep thinking about like how important these things are. These are actually not fancy things. These are very essential things to have another option for people outside of the US. So it's an interesting time to learn about all this stuff, right?
Yeah, it really is. And what a horrible thing that you explained. And I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. When it comes to governments, it's tricky with the turmoil that's going on in all these governments, and how do you even know what you're doing is legal or not? How do you know if they're going to even accept it? Or one day they accept it and the next day they just want to throw you behind bars because their own policies, they could just change things with a snap of the fingers, and all of a sudden you're a criminal. It's scary. So yeah, that's that really needs a lot of research, especially in Africa with what you're explaining. Yeah, scary.
Yeah, that's got to be a tough gig, because even the thought of, well, anything that you would do, right? The security risk goes up exponentially, because a country in crisis and desperate people will do desperate things, right? So you wouldn't buy a Bitcoin ATM machine. You might train agents, right? Train 8 people. The human being becomes the ATM because they have the device, right? And the device becomes the technology interface, not an actual freestanding machine. And that person might be a trained ex-Navy SEAL type of guy, right? Go ahead.
There's
try to rob me. But yeah, you mean who knows? But yeah, if there's a will, there's a way. I know Bit is very passionate about doing something that will help her native country, and I encourage her all the time to do the research and figure out how you can do that. Whether it's
how do you do research when there is none, when no one's even done it before? It's like, well, you need answers, but there are none.
Well, you can create the answer and do the research. For instance, I just gave you an answer. You have the human being become the agent. The human being becomes the ATM. And how then the research is, how do you use social media platforms to let people know that the gentleman in the Bitcoin hat and the Bitcoin t-shirt who is going to be at the so-and-so 7-Eleven between 10 and 6 every day is the guy to talk to? And you do some other technology interface to verify, so that the people, because these are not going away. Matter of fact, even in war-torn Ethiopia, there are cellular communications going on. Maybe not to the extent that they were prior to the conflict, but there are.
Right.
People are still posting the destruction on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like that isn't happening. Anyway, I digress. I apologize.
So I'm just going back to the question of the ATM machine. So you own the company that would actually, somebody else would lease it out, or you own it and then you would put it there? And like, how does the business aspect of it work, as far as like you have the liability when you put it in a location? And then as far as people that don't have a wallet yet, is that printable? So they have, how does that work? Did they have to have a wallet for it to go to in order to buy the crypto from your machine? Or is it, there's a serial number that they can print and then figure out a way to put it, like, because most people don't have a wallet yet if they don't even have anything set up to put it in their wallet.
Got it. So a couple questions in there. We buy the ATM outright from General Bytes. That's who we use as our manufacturer. And we would, as the business, we have the liability to place it in the area. When a customer comes up and uses it, they need a wallet. Typically, it's on their phone. There's lots of, if you go to our website, there's lots of videos that show you exactly how to use the Bitcoin ATM. And sometimes they even call customer service and say, what am I doing? And we walk them through the steps.
Okay.
There is a option to print paper wallets on some of them, but that's even more confusing because they don't know how to get it off of the paper wallet.
Right.
Or sometimes they lose the paper wallet. So we try to steer people away from a paper wallet unless they're going to just hold it forever. But typically, most people have a phone. Most people know how to download something on the App Store. And those apps, they walk you through the steps to download their app. And the ATM itself actually walks you through the steps on how to use it. So,
you're doing QR codes. It's just basically point your camera, bing, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, okay. yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're not sitting there typing in QRS3TZ.
No, right.
Oh my goodness, boy, that would be.
That's good to clarify.
All right, Bitta, we got time for one more question before we bring in Brady and hit a final thoughts segment.
Okay, one more question. How do you reload? Are you reloading like remotely, or is it something you have to physically go do? Because then that creates another job for another person.
Reload what?
The machine. So it's not is it done remotely? Like if you are buying the Bitcoin or XRP or whatever it is that you have in your machine, are you buying directly from an exchange in order for it to be available in the machine since you have the liability, like you own it, or is it something that's done automatically?
So typically there are two ways to do things. You can essentially plug in with your APIs, which is basically a communication to an online exchange. Okay. That's one way to do things. You would need a USD balance or whatever it is available, so a customer comes to the ATM, they buy the Bitcoin, the online exchange kind of does the purchase for you from your APIs, with a USD balance that you have in there. Boom, it sends it to the customer. That's a little more complicated. Typically, we just hold our own Bitcoin, and they buy it directly from us. And we have how we get the money to constantly buy Bitcoin is the customer puts the money in the ATM, their armored car picks up the cash, takes it to the bank, and then we go ahead and we buy more Bitcoin with that cash from the bank. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so similar idea as the kind of like the soda machine, which is kind of, you still have to go pick up something and load something.
Yeah, you still have to buy the product.
Right.
The inventory to sell, yeah.
Okay.
Right on.
Great question.
Great question. Yeah. Corey, final thoughts. I mean, there's so much. I mean, what do you think? What do you think would a way to say goodbye to the audience? Your final thoughts on this hour with Jerry and Bitta.
Final thought. The first thing that came to mind is you're great, Jerry, and thank you for your questions, Bitta. I really like the way that you break things down, and you definitely made a fan out of me. If anybody is thinking of doing a Bitcoin ATM company themselves, do it now, because I promise you in 2 years it's going to be next to impossible. And there are some big guys creating some real monopolies. It's not getting easier. So if you're going to do it, be aggressive, do things the right way the very first time. Again, compliance is where it just has to start. And, take good care of your customers. So that's kind of all I'm good for, I guess.
No, that was fantastic. Brady, get yourself ready. So, Bitta, final thoughts on the night. Has this inspired you to, or re-energized you to the thought of how can you get involved from a business level in this digital asset space and what you might be able to do for your home country as well as what you're doing in Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of stuff going on in my head. So this is actually, when you sent me the email that what it is, there's actually a few machines in Seattle that I've been wanting to go look at. So now this inspires me to actually go after it and actually go try to find it and see if one of the machine is actually theirs. So I'm happy to be back. And yes, it will be a lot of stuff going on. So yeah.
We're super, super happy to have you back. Brady, if you unmute yourself, I'll know that you're ready. Okay, there you go. Brady, your final thoughts on this on this really interesting topic, and this, I've thought, a really interesting show that we had tonight.
Well, it's, I guess, from back in 2013, when the whole idea and concept of Bitcoin being used as a means of remittance was kind of blowing my mind, but it was kind of before Lightning and before everything, so it was just sort of a thought or a concept. Fast forward to today, it's interesting to see how crypto is being used in different ways to meet different needs for both retail investors in first world countries and then economic actors in less developed or, whatever, second, third developed economies in those countries, just because it's on the internet and that it's a bearer instrument that can be held electronically, which, because we've never been able to do that before, we've kind of, I can't remember what one of you said it, we'd be researching our active feedback, because what we're doing now we've never really done before, so we're kind of pivoting as needed, and it'll be interesting to see how much growth, not only economically but socially, that these countries that haven't really had access or haven't really had either a source of wealth that doesn't depreciate or just the tool of money, period, or credit tools, or loans, micro loans. So it's going to be fun to see how big this actually gets, and it's all going to happen as we're literally watching it.
Right on, brother. I'll tell you, I'll close this one out with, I'm going to piggyback what Corey said. One of the amazing opportunities that we have in front of us with this digital asset space is the fact that the big boys aren't here and cemented into a foundation. They're coming. Big money is coming to this space in many different verticals of this asset class. The thing that we need to remember, and this is just history speaking, the larger the money, the harder and higher the barriers to entry are. So being in a nascent space gives us opportunities that would be far more expensive to execute later. So time, one could say, if you have an idea and you really want to express it, then don't sit on your butt. Get on the computer, get on the phone, find out what's going on. Corey gave you a roadmap: compliance, banking relationships. Compliance, understand the laws in the area that you're trying to operate in. Understand the banking relationships that you're going to need, because it doesn't matter if you're a Bitcoin ATM company or you're an emerging, technologist who's going to bring Caldwell Banker property on the blockchain, executing title functions and bank transfers and escrow services on a blockchain. If you're a business, your goal is to make money. So it means you're going to deal with money, which means you're going to need a bank. So folks, I hope that some of you have taken this to heart, and I hope others were just entertained by the great conversation. In closing, I want to just thank all of the incredible folks that continue to tune into the show every Friday night. All the new subscribers, thank you. We got up over 6,000 and knocking on 7,000. Thank you so much for that. And all of the Patreon members, folks that have found me through this channel and joined the Beyond Moon Investment Club. It keeps growing. And I'm proud to tell you, we are going to be investing another $1,400 tomorrow morning at our Tier 2 investor meeting. 7 a.m. Pacific time, if you can believe it. They picked the time, not me. But anyway, for those of you that are part of the Patreon group, thank you so very much. It is an absolute joy working with you guys one-on-one. And for the rest of the world, hey, from Costa Rica, Pura Vida.
Pura Vida.
And see you next week.